his. But he has sent a note to this meeting, which I would like to read.
From the Tower of London, I think.
Please! There will be no comments on Brexit or anything else. But he sends his sincere apologies, but he's unable to chair this important meeting concerning the future of Chobham Post Office. I'm delighted, though, that local residents have got this opportunity this evening to voice their concerns and to ask the Post Office any questions they might wish to raise. I do hope this meeting proves helpful, and I look forward to hearing the outcome. So that's what Michael. So we have an hour. It is only an hour, and it is about asking questions really of the Post Office. Obviously, this is a very emotional topic, a bit like the referendum. And you all have very, very strong views, I'm sure. But we need to try and keep the emotion out of it if we can, and try and ask specific questions of the Post Office. Now, if somebody has asked your question, please don't ask the same question again, because it is about using this time as best we can. And I'm sure there are lots of various parts of this evening that we need to ask questions on. So the way we're going to play this is, Laura Tardy is the first representative of the Post Office, is going to outline where we are. She's going to tell you about the timetable of things, and then we are going to throw it open to questions from the floor. So if you can put your hands up at the requisite time, we'll have some spotters. I'm sorry we don't have any mics, but we'll have some spotters, and we'll try and get through as many of them as we can in the allotted time, which I say is an hour.
Can you introduce the people on the stage so that we know who we're addressing?
We'll do that as we go along. So it is I'd say a pretty tight thing. As I say, I'll do that now. I've said who I am. I'm John May. I'm the chairman of the Surrey Heath Conservative Association. I'm past mayor of Surrey Heath and a councillor for a long time. I'm no longer a councillor, so I'm independent on this now. On my left is county councillor Michael Goodman, and on my right is Laura Tarling from the Post Office, and lady is from I've forgotten already. Sorry. Anita from the Post Office is also going to take notes, so that effectively all the questions you ask are part of the consultation, but Laura will explain them. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Laura Tarling.
Thank you very much. Hopefully you can hear me at the back, can you? Yes, good. I'll try and shout, if that's okay. I'm only going to take 5 minutes of your time, because I know that lots of you want to ask questions, and there's a lot of you here. And it's really good actually to see that there's lots of passion about your post office. So it's great to see such huge numbers at a meeting like this. So thank you very much for coming, and thank you for inviting me to your meeting. So I'm just going to give you a bit of background as to why we're proposing to relocate the post office in Chobham. So the post office network is modernising, and with government investment we are looking to create a more sustainable post office network going forward. We need to become less reliant on government subsidy, and we're looking across all of our network, which we've been doing since 2012, to see how we can modernise our branches, make them more efficient for the postmasters to operate them, and also make them more attractive for our customers to use their post office. So it's about encouraging existing customers to continue to use their post office, but also to encourage new customers to come into the post office. And one of the ways that we're looking to do that is by offering much longer post office opening hours across our whole network. We now, since our programme started in 2012, have over 3,000 branches that are open now on a Sunday. And we are seeing more and more customers coming at weekends and in evenings to use their post office. People's shopping habits are changing. A lot of us shop online, we all go to work, not all of us, but those maybe they do. And most of us, if we have those busy hours, we can't actually use our post office during the usual 9 to 5:30 hours, and we might rush along there on a Saturday morning or at other times. But for others, they don't actually, not able to use their post office. So as part of this organisation plan, opening at weekends and in the evenings or early mornings, where people can maybe drop off online packages that they've ordered to send back, they can do that on the way home to work or over the weekends at a time that's more convenient. Now, in order for our post offices to be sustainable into the future, they need to have two income streams. They need to have an income from a retail business, and they need to have obviously the income from the post office. We know that standalone post offices, and when I use the word standalone post office, it's those that don't have a retail business or income coming with it. Those branches will struggle in the future to survive. As we have to reduce our reliance on government subsidy, those post offices will find it more challenging to exist into the future. Now, the post office in Chobham, although it's located within a Lloyd's pharmacy, the postmaster there doesn't own the pharmacy. Lloyd's pharmacy own that. So he doesn't enjoy any of the income that comes into the pharmacy. He's reliant on post office income only. And that kind of branch into the future will be more at risk in terms of its long-term viability. And it's for that reason that we decided that we were going to advertise the post office in Chobham, because we need to make sure that that post office stays here for the longer term, and we need to make sure that it's partnered with a viable retail business. So as you know, the owner of the Janella store applied to take on the post office. Okay, that was a few months ago that they did that. We did advertise the post office with other retailers on our website, and the Janella store was the person who applied, and they've been through a recruitment process, and that has just ended. And when that ends, that doesn't mean to say that they automatically get the post office, because what we have to do is go through what we call a public consultation process, and that lasts for 6 weeks. So the public consultation process commenced on the 9th of February, and it closes on the 22nd of March. Now, on your chairs, you'll have a letter that looks like this. This is something that is available from the post office if you're popping in there, but if you've got one on your seat, you can use that. And in there's lots of information around what we're looking for as part of the feedback in the consultation process. But just to give you a flavour of that, it's how suitable do you think the proposed location is for the post office? How easy is it for you to get there? Do you have any concerns about the location? Maybe there's a community aspect that we're not aware of that you need to tell us about that might have an impact on relocating the post office. Maybe there's something you like about the change as well. So we want to hear all feedback from you. Now, we've just hit the 4-week stage in the public consultation process, and so far we've just had over 100 responses. The general feedback, because we do see themes coming through in terms of what concerns people the most, and parking seems to be one of the bigger issues at the moment. But I'm conscious of the fact that we're having the meeting tonight, everyone's got a chance to ask questions, and hopefully you'll go away with a bit of a more informed view of what's going on, and then of course you can contribute to the consultation if you haven't done already. So it's just a reminder, the letters are on your chairs. If you haven't got one, pick one up in the post office. You can write to us with your feedback, you can go online, you can send us an email. There's a variety of ways, it's all in that letter. Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, I'm sorry I was late coming in due to the obvious reasons here, but I'd like to know who the people are and who you are. Can you tell me, please?
Yeah, sorry, we just did an intro at the beginning. So my name's Laura Tarling, I'm a Public Affairs Manager in the Post Office.
Right, and the gentleman?
I'm Michael, the County Councillor for Chobham.
I'm sorry, sir.
Michael, the County Councillor for Chobham.
Oh, thank you, Michael. And
My name's John May. I'm the Surrey Heath Chairman of the Conservative Association, filling in for Michael Gove this evening.
right. And are you all in favour of the new?
I'm afraid that's not a question, so really I think you should put
Can I just add, consultation and moving post office isn't kind of like a voting thing, you know. It's around giving us your feedback. It's really important that you give us your feedback. If you give feedback via social media or to others, or it's rumour, or you're chatting amongst yourselves, that's not coming into the post office. So you need to be mindful of all of the information that you wish to share amongst your community to make sure that it comes into us. Okay?
There's no parking.
Okay.
There's no parking.
Anita's making some notes there.
So the purpose of the meeting tonight is for us to ask questions.
correct.
And you to answer them.
I'll answer as much as I possibly can about the post office, yes.
Right, can I start?
Can we take the lady at the back there first question? Lavinia.
I'll get mine later.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chairman, just point of clarification. You said that the building where the present post office is owned by the pharmacy. I was under the impression that it was owned not by the pharmacy but by the present post office manager. Can you please confirm that?
Yes,
Well,
that's correct.
Well, it's absolutely essential at that point, isn't it? Because he is already getting money from the pharmacy. So it's already a retail outlet.
No, okay, so let me explain. So the current postmaster owns the premises, okay, but he doesn't have any retail income from the retail business associated with it. But he doesn't get retail income from that.
It appears he gets a rent. Let's be clear.
So what does he get from him doing stuff in the shop? Is that not retail?
He's got his rent.
He doesn't get any from the shop.
But what is the difference between rent and retail income in cash terms? There isn't any difference.
We've got two incomes from that property.
I
Yes or
understand.
no?
Is the gentleman here that has the post office? Is he here?
I understand, and I can confirm that he does rent the space out to Lloyd's Pharmacy, yes.
Can you confirm the point of difference? Because probably a lot of us don't understand. The point of difference is that he might get the rent, but post office counters or whatever don't. Is there a difference between him and the business of the post office?
So the post office is offered like a franchise. So the post office provide a contract services to a postmaster. As part of that contract, that postmaster has to own the whole thing and also has to own the retail business as well. Okay. So at the moment he doesn't own the retail business.
I can't see it matters if he's getting an income from the chemist. He's still getting an income, so he's not two incomes.
So what we're saying is a question of definition, or the interpretation of the definition post office are given. It's pretty obvious that he's got an income from the property for rent that is not classed as retail. The question is, why isn't that classed as retail?
Yes.
So that's the question.
Okay. I'll step back a bit. So when we first started our programme, okay, we engaged with all of our postmasters. We talked to them about the future of their business and we advised them that in the long term, subsidy will be reduced. You need to be a financially viable business in your own right and not heavily reliant on post office income. Okay, so that's kind of like the model of it, right? Every postmaster was given an opportunity to say to us, I am viable, I can complete a financial assessment, I can complete a business plan and demonstrate to you that I am, okay? In this particular case, that didn't happen. Okay, so that particular postmaster chose not to do that.
So you don't actually know whether it's viable or not, is that right?
He's been given the opportunity to demonstrate viability.
That's not what I asked.
He's
You
not
don't
here
know
to
that's
defend
the case, do you?
He's not here to defend himself, no.
Why is he not here?
We found, we did feel, I've spoken to the postmaster today and also to the owner of the Janella store to discuss about coming tonight. The reason that we thought it might be best that they didn't come was because lots of people will have an opinion about each of those businesses and it's sometimes difficult to be talking at that level with those people.
Can I just explain
He
this
could
is
have
absolutely
verified
not
Can we have one
about...
at a time? Lady here, please.
This is absolutely not about being against Janellas. They are a fantastic shop that are much liked in the community. So I think it's wrong that they were asked not to come today. I think
concur with
right
you.
to be
I
a
agree.
public meeting. And I really think it's wrong.
Yes, and I was told by him that it was a financial loss to him if he came.
Was the owner
I
of
don't know
Janellas
exactly, but that's
allowed
what
to
it
come to this meeting?
As I just said, I spoke to both of them today. Now this isn't my meeting, I must say, because I was asked to attend, but I did speak to both of those people today, And I said to them, it's a public meeting, okay, anyone can go. Yeah?
Except him.
That's what it is.
Except him.
I said, in my own experience, because I've done quite a few of these, when we have a postmaster here, it can become a bit of an emotional situation for them. Some people will be in favour of a move, some people will be against that. And there can potentially be, some anxiety around that. And sometimes if that person is
Who's in favour?
it's not going to change.
Take the lady here on the front. Yes, you, ma'am.
Pete,
Yes.
I understand Mr. Meta basically wasn't given an option if he wanted to stay in the post office business. He had to move from a traditional style contract with a fixed fee to a new local, as it's known, but a local contract, which is commission only. And that wasn't voluntary, he didn't have an option. But looking back at the start of this whole transformation programme, there was a commitment from Post Office Limited that that decision would be voluntary. And I'm just quoting from it's a 2012 parliamentary report from a House of Commons Select Committee in which Paula Venables, the then Chief Executive of Post Office Limited, contributed this supplementary written evidence, i.e. presumably she was responding to questions from MPs. She said, or rather she wrote, any move to the new post office local model is entirely voluntary on the part of the sub-postmaster. They will only move to the new operating model if the economics stack up for them. Stay as you are, any sub-postmaster who wants to stay on their current contract terms, if that works best for them, can do so. So my question is, when did this voluntary policy change?
Good question. Okay, so when our programme first started in 2012, we were provided with some investment funding by government to invest into our branches. Now when we do that, we're investing to modernise and refresh and make everything look more modern, but we're also making it more efficient for the operator to run it. So that into the future, when the subsidy declines, they're in a much better operational way of working, if you like.
Can you answer the question, please?
I am answering the question.
You're not.
Can you not interrupt?
As part of that process of when the branch is modernised, the postmaster gets a new contract. And within that contract, the way that we remunerate a postmaster changes. So in the old contract, they would have received a level of fixed pay plus a payment for every transaction that goes through the branch. On the new contract, they get a payment for every transaction that goes through the branch, but they no longer receive the fixed pay. And there are payments and investments and various other things to kind of work through that process with them. Now, before 2013, that was a voluntary process because there wasn't enough funding to do all of the network at that point. So it was therefore those postmasters who wanted to take advantage of getting investment into their branch to modernise it. And those are the ones that opted to do that in the first round of that. And then a couple of years later, the government provided us with the rest of the funding to do the rest of the network. And we wrote to the postmasters to explain that change. And since then, we've been writing to them periodically to explain to them you need to make the decision about the future of your post office. Either you stay, you take the investment, you operate in a more efficient way, you get a new contract, or maybe you might want to leave, or whatever your decision is. So there was a period when that did change, and it was a letter went out in 2013. It was the date of that.
Thank you. I'm sure as a good Tory, Mr. May, you would applaud the enterprise of the Janella Company for offering what may, fullness of time, be a better service over extended opening hours. But my question is, if, for example, the Janella Company are offered this contract, over what period does the contract extend? What are the penalties for failure? And can they at any time give the contract up? Because that would leave us completely bereft of post office services.
Yeah, okay, that's a good question. So currently, the contract for services with a postmaster on the old contract is 3 months' notice. So any postmaster can give us 3 months' notice. During that time, we would need to find an alternative place for a post office in the community, because the Post Office Limited are committed to maintaining post office services in communities. Okay. In the post office local, so if the proposal were to move to the branch, to the Janella store, the branch will become what we call a post office local, so it will be a new type of contract, and the notice period in the contract is longer, it's 6 months notice, and the new postmaster has to hold that contract for a minimum of a year, and then if they wanted to leave, they could give us 6 months notice. So we don't bind people to our contracts forever, because clearly that's not good business practice, but every postmaster has had the opportunity to resign and leave in 3 months. So we do actually have a longer notice period in the new
What is the
contract.
penalty for non-performance
well,
during the period of the contract?
Well, it depends what you mean by non-performance. So we don't measure
But they
branches.
basically just don't provide the service which we all expect them to provide. What penalties, what financial penalties are there?
We don't actually provide, I don't think Anita, do you have any financial penalties? We don't. Anita's a contracts manager, so she's good to answer that. We don't have any financial penalties for postmasters. That's not the way that our business operates. So if, for instance, a customer felt that they weren't receiving a good service, they would write to our customer care team, and that complaint would then be followed up with the postmaster. If there were a large amount of customer complaints, then we would invite them in for an interview, and we would talk about the contractual element to that with them. But generally there is kind of a staged process and all of that, so there is no financial penalties.
Can I ask? I think most of us are here because we all want the post office to stay where it is. Do I understand, though, that you've decided that the current postmaster is not going to continue, and so there's no question of the same situation, that the post office being where it is with the same postmaster for the future? But that's not going to happen, whatever we say to you tonight. Is that the position?
I think it's fair for me to say that if we did nothing, okay, and we just left the branch as it was, okay, at some point that branch potentially, because its reliance on post office income only, is quite.
So we're wasting our time, aren't we?
And actually, as I've said, the postmaster has been given an opportunity to demonstrate viability.
Oh my God.
Same opportunity he's had coming tonight.
It's all about money, isn't it? That's what it's about. It's not about people. I mean, the people in here, pensioners, etc., going there, wheelchairs inaccessible, roadways blocked. Here they have car parks. I've got a photograph showing you the car park, showing you nothing on the other side, showing you all the cars parked up the front. And the bottom line is it's about money. The reason you want to move is to save money for the post office. Isn't the post office got enough money? Tell us that.
It's about future sustainability, because the post office, like many other organisations in this financial climate, has less government subsidy to rely on.
And you think?
For that reason, we need to make sure we do nothing.
So it's all about money. It's not about people. It's not about the community, the older people in this room here. Hands up all those who want the post office. There we go. Hands up those that don't want it there. Right. So I think the point's through.
In terms of the community, going back to the consultation process, that's what this is about.
We're telling you. Everybody's telling you. We don't want it to move. We do not want it to move. Sorry?
I'm here to answer your questions today, so that you can have a more informed way of
What is the next slot of the Post Office Limited of leaving the branch where it is?
If we left the
Can you
branch,
repeat the question? We can't hear.
I said, given that there is a declared income in terms of business, or turnover in terms of business, of 357,000 for Post Office Limited with the current Post Office, my question is, what is the net loss to Post Office Limited by continuing with the subsidy and leaving the Post Office where it is?
Good question.
I don't know where that figure came from.
Very
It
good.
comes from the business plan that you published.
Post Office Limited,
No,
or you're talking
business
about
opportunity that was published for Chobham. And in addition to that, following the consultation process, could you please tell me, please, which post offices and what percentage have actually remained where they are? So when you consult, given that most people that respond to the consultation are not in favour of a closure or a movement, which of those consultations have resulted in Post Office Limited leaving the Post Office where it is?
I'd just like to come back to the financial question. I have not seen
If
that
you're all
figure.
sharing the meeting, we'll get nowhere.
The only thing
Getting
that
nowhere
we've
anyway.
publicised- The only
So if
thing
you don't want to be here, you can leave.
I know, but I can leave, but the postmaster can't come here. He's not
The
allowed.
thing that we publicise for the post office in Chobham is the remuneration that we would pay any new operating. That's all we would publish. So I'm not sure where the
What is the net
350,000.
loss then of leaving the Post Office where it is, the Post Office Limited?
Well, there wouldn't be any loss because ultimately the subsidy would go and the postmaster wouldn't receive anything. So it would be a loss to them, not to us.
So the Post ultimately receives an income from the transactions that happen through the Post
But the
Office.
branch would
So
operate
what-
as a loss. The branch would operate.
So what is the net loss?
It would operate as a loss to that individual. So the postmaster is like a franchisee. They need to do their own business plan to see how that works for them in terms of viability for them. So we would get an income from that post office, but actually it would be fairly small in the relation to the wider network, etc.
So does that mean you would still get an income and there wouldn't be a loss for Post Office Limited leaving where it is?
We
So
would
the current
the subsidy eventually would go, okay, and that particular postmaster would lose the money. We would,
So
because it's not our subsidy to,
but even paying subsidy, what is the net loss for Post Office Limited?
nothing. There isn't a loss.
There is one. Lady, straight through here.
Sorry, but the other part of the
Yes.
question, which
The
is
other
where-
question was,
Okay.
so when talking to postmasters about the future of their business, actually the majority of them choose to stay. Okay, lots of them will choose to stay. They would choose to take the investment and the new contract and change the way of working, modernise, etc. So it's very difficult for me to say what percentage of them
But you know which have gone out to consultation, so therefore out of those that have gone to consultation,
I don't know the answer to
people
that.
have responded.
Nearly 6,000 branches have made the change, and there will be a number of those that will be in new locations.
So there are several hundred on websites that have gone out to consultation.
Yeah.
I've not yet managed to find one for following consultation. I'm following the response of those consultees and staying where it is. So
Do
I'm
you
quite
mean to
sure.
say that the decision at the end of the consultation was not to proceed with it? Is that the question?
So not to proceed,
Okay,
not
right,
to
that's
proceed with the
different.
changes.
Okay. There are branches that don't proceed. I mean, I've had a couple that I'm aware of.
Out of how roughly how many?
I haven't got a UK-wide figure. That isn't something. It's a changing thing all the time. We have branches going into consultation every week, so it's not something that we monitor in all honesty.
Well, you should do.
The number, we look at each case on an individual basis, so not every consultation is the same. So not everyone will have exactly the same distance in terms of alternative branches that we're looking, or shops that we're looking to move from to. Not everyone will have the same parking issues, the same disability access issues. They're all very different, so it's a bit like measuring apples and
It
pears.
seems like a fair question then to say, of the consultation, how many actually prove for the guy who wants to stay on, or lady who wants to stay on, and how many don't. In other words, is the consultation process worthwhile or not? Let's move to this lady who's very patient with the left hand. Yes, ma'am.
Right. Let's stop bandying figures about and let's think about people. This is a very united village. Now, when I moved here over 55 years ago, we had two very strong banks. We had the post office. Various things have been taken away from this village, and I, for one, don't like it. The village is now half as big again as what it was when I came here. And in that time, as I say, we've lost our banks and we rely heavily on the post office. So do you all, yes? Yes. So let's think about that, shall we? And stop being so single-minded to think about the people in this community and not just money.
Yeah.
To a community. This is a community. We have a post office, and hey, magic, there's a doctor's next door, there's a dentist next door, there is aged house, aged. There is aged housing.
And a crossing.
Yes, there's parking, there's the chemist.
And the cash point.
There used to be but the point is that that's almost the centre of our community. Sorry, Chris. The church, of course, but nobody seems to be taking account of that. And you're going to move. I live very close to Janellas. They are brilliant. But they're not a post office. They have a shop which is alongside a very busy road, which is now totally crowded with parked cars because the council has imposed parking fees. There's community from the inside. We care so much for our community. There's nothing from the powers. You talk about making money. Well, you know, there's that lovely little hub. Sorry, I'm going on. I'll take it.
No, you're not.
It's a really good point, and there's no disabled access. Okay, coming back to the lady at the back and also to your point, the consultation process needs to hear this sort of information. Okay, so writing in about disabled access or car parking or whatever that the issue is for you, then please do write that in.
Shall we take the lady back? We haven't said anything yet. Yes, madam, please.
If this isn't a done deal, can you explain to me why a lady serving in Janellas has been on a course to learn about the post office?
I'm not aware of that. Can I just say, when we go through a process of recruiting a postmaster, or a new postmaster, they do have to go through this recruitment process. Before we get to a public consultation, we do need to make sure that the proposal that we present to a community is robust. Okay, so we do have to do quite a lot of work with that applicant before we get to a consultation. Otherwise, it might be that they're not suitable in some way or another. So it could be that there's been some kind of training done to it.
Why are they changing?
But that doesn't mean that it's a done deal, because everything that we do with that applicant is always subject to the result of the public consultation.
Right, somebody right at the back there. Yes? Yes, please.
Right, have you done a risk assessment on Church Road? It's out there at lunchtime, the chip shop and Janellas, because they serve hot food, coffee. It's not just a little news agents like it used to be. They've got everything in there now. You cannot move in there. The ambulance tried to get the road the other day, they couldn't get up there. And they're all turning round in our road in Barmead. Now why should we put up with that?
And that's down to council as well. Council. Yes, lady in the middle there, back. Yes, madam? Yes?
You've explained very clearly how the existing post office is going to be dismantled. How the existing post office will be dismantled. What can be done to keep it there?
We really need probably some more information from the postmaster. That will probably be one point I would make. That's all I would say really. I mean, the point is, as our government subsidy reduces, all of our post offices throughout the country are going to see less in terms of the subsidy that they receive. So, some of them might be completely viable without that, and we do have some branches that said that's fine. I'm quite happy not to take the new contract, and I'll do without the subsidy. That's fine. But there will be some that will be too vulnerable to allow that to happen, and that's what we believe will
What's
happen.
coming through, of course, is government funding, where Michael will go here to take that back, and he will get the consultation. Effectively, he will take that back. Lady in front, yes, you've been very patient.
Yes, thank you. As a disabled person, when I park, I need to open my door fully to get out or into my car. Now, because I have a scooter and a hoist, I have to have a larger car, which means it's larger doors. At the post office, I can go in and I can park in a car park. Admittedly, there are vehicles moving around me, but I'm not worried that they're trying to drive either towards me or from behind me. At Janella's, you have cars parked on either side of the slip road, very narrow area for the cars to pass in and out. And I always feel slightly under pressure that I must get in and out of the car quickly, which flusters me and could lead to me having a fall, which might lead to me being injured, which might lead to an ambulance being needed. Have you considered things like this? Because I'm not alone. There are other people with knee and hip problems. So I really think you need to think about the parking.
If you could write that into the if you haven't already.
I have sent my
Thank you, Chairman. You've heard a lot about the car parking situation. I think I'd speak for most people to say I'd be amazed if you come out of this consultation without realising that it's a complete showstopper for putting it in Chertsey Road. To be completely fair to you, can you please explain to myself and to those here this evening, what powers do you have to ensure that whatever remodelling is required can be done? Do you have any do you have any power to do that, or can you simply recommend?
What we've done in the past, okay, is if we get quite a lot of feedback with regards to parking or lack of disabled spaces or whatever it might be, we have written to the county council or the highways department, whoever's involved in that, to advise them to say we've had this consultation. The feedback, there's quite a lot of feedback, because it would have to be quite a lot as well, rather than just, most people complain generally about parking. But if there's an overwhelming piece around parking, and it's clearly an issue, then we would advise the council that this has come in, and they need to be aware of that. Now, from the post office perspective, we don't control the parking, we don't control the highways.
Do you take it into consideration?
We take it into consideration all of the things that are in the letter, so it's around accessibility, all right? So, if what you were saying about your particular personal circumstances, clearly that's an issue for you, and we would want to hear about
I'm not
that.
alone.
And that would be lots of people.
The lady in the lady in the front is on the same point.
Can we have a little bit of elucidation on this point about you taking this to the county council? Now, we've got a county councillor here, our county councillor. I took it to the local area committee of county councillors last night about how the area could be changed to make it safe and to give enough car parking. That's correct, Mike, isn't it?
Well, I'm
I'm quite happy for you to give the story, or I will. But my question was last night, could you make this area safe, give us enough parking? And the business of making it safe was partly about putting a crossing over the Chertsey Road with traffic lights, just as we have outside the present one, to make it safe. Because it is a much more dangerous road anyway. And the answer came, and Mike will confirm this, that the cost of putting a crossing was between £100,000 and £120,000 without the parking. Now, I ask you whether you are prepared to pay for that, because you've been talking about money. Are you prepared to pay for that for the good of the community and the service? Or is it back to the county council? Because I asked them a second question, do you have the money? And they said no.
Post Office Limited are a government-owned company. Post Office Limited are a government-owned company, and our investment funding is really to invest into the physical change in our branches. Unfortunately, we don't have funding for changes to the highways.
We're going to ask Mike Goodman, Kent Council of the area, to comment on it.
Obviously, I've been aware of the issue of Genoa's for some time. I've been aware of the issues of Genoa's for some time. I've had a meeting this week with the highways chaps to say, look, if the main issue with this, if it went ahead, if the post office were to say it wants to go to Genoa, what could we do? And what we've agreed, if that is what we're going to, if that is the proposal, I will be meeting highway engineer to look at the whole thing, because I accept everything you said, particularly on the disabled and problems with Churchill Road. There's a lot of changes going to be done on Churchill Road anyway, and Churchill Road Junction, and the speed limit's going to change. So a lot of work is going to be done on Churchill Road, but I also agree we're going to reduce it.
An hour restriction of businesses along there.
Right, so what I'm saying
Come
to
on,
you...
garages, Bay's business been there over 30 years, and you want to ruin it by that.
Do you know what? That's not what I said, was it?
Yeah,
That's
you're
not what I
talking
said.
about the highway. The restrictions in your letter is an hour waiting.
What I'm saying...
So everyone else in the side roads gets it.
Do you wish me to answer? Do you want me to answer it or not?
Yes.
Right. Yes. Basically, what would happen is the highways engineers, whose responsibility this would be, and the parking engineer would look at the whole thing. They would then make recommendations. They would then make recommendations on what should happen.
I was asking her whether she would pay.
She said no. In what?
You haven't got the money either, that's all.
No, but what I'm trying to say, if the issue was the car parking, which I think would be, and the safety, the engineers would have to look at it, and then they'd have to decide what would happen. I can't preempt that, but the issue would be, as Lavinia quite rightly says, is the funding of all this, because there's not a lot of funding, but I would still have to do the work and then talk to the person and say, look, if that's your proposal, this is the cost.
By then it's too late.
No, nothing would happen until that work was done.
I believe that we are 3 crossings short if we're including Chertsey Road in this village. So are you saying crossing Chertsey Road would take priority over the unsafe crossing that we
I think we
currently
just
have?
move on. I don't think that's the issue. I think, as you know, it's not that.
Can we take the gentleman t-shirt, white t-shirt? So, well, I could save you a lot of cost on that. There's a purpose-built building that's already there with parking and a crossing. So why you'd have to spend out for an engineer to tell you that something you've already got doesn't make any sense to me. And also, there's another part. Why is the existing postmaster able to just take a rent from Lloyd's and not then keep up his original bargain? Surely it must have been to have had a post office.
Well, we've asked that question.
Well, I don't know the answer. What's the answer? I don't know the answer. Nobody knows the answer. You've asked them how much your contract
Question
works.
again, sorry. Could you say the question again?
How, as the existing postmaster, obviously when he took it on a few years ago, he took on that post office, Lloyd's has then come there, and he's taken all the rent from that, and he's just saying, oh, I'm not doing the post office anymore. How does that work out? I don't understand how that
He's
works.
not saying he's not doing the post office anymore.
No, he wants to do it.
Why can't he stay there? Or, better still, why isn't it open to another postmaster to go there and take it over?
He's not reason.
Because it's his building, he can sell it if he wants to, but I don't think he's in the place of selling it. So, Lloyd's Pharmacy don't want the post office, so that would be the only other option available at this moment in time.
Why do you want to move in the first place? I can't understand it. You want to spend all this money and
The
time.
postmaster owns the premises in its entirety, and he rents a a portion of that out to Lloyd's Pharmacy, okay? The post office, because he has no retail income, we understand that he will be at risk in the future when subsidies decline, and therefore he will find it challenging to remain viable. And in that situation, he might then resign because the branch would no longer be viable.
With respect, we've already put this question to them.
Yeah, we're not getting the answer.
Can I just answer? It's the definition of rent as against retail. And this meeting has said, why can't rent equal retail? Because it's his money that's coming out, and he's the one to decide whether it's viable for him not making any money for the post office. That was the question. We take the gentleman down there who's also been very patient. You're all very patient, but we need some people that haven't spoken yet. Yes?
Lady over here.
I know, I tried to get her a minute ago.
I have the original advertisement here for the post office when they proposed this. It says the current premises are not available. It also says the current fee income from the post office is 23,000 to 25,000 a year. We're not talking about a lot of money.
Sorry?
We're not talking about a lot of money.
No.
So why not leave it alone?
Here we are.
One question you haven't covered is security and safety for the old people when they draw their money out in Janellas. Because if you go in Janellas, you're an open counter, and if they wanted to save some money up to take it out, there's no security. And I understand, I don't know where it was, but one post shop was, they were robbed by villains, I suppose, but they went in and they stole all the cash up there. There's no security, there's no safeness. I mean,
Okay, it's a good question.
You've got to cover this
When
area.
we move to the new style post offices, they are open plan, okay, and that's I think what the lady is getting at there in that point. When you are a customer in front of one of these counters, there is a kind of what we call a hamper. It's kind of like a semi-screen, okay. Now, the conversations that you have with the person behind that counter, because it would be a separate counter to the retail, it would just be placed where the retail counter is, so it would be an extension of that. And the reason for that is because the person working there, as part of this new contract, they wouldn't be able to pay an hourly rate just for somebody to work in the post office, because during that hour there will be times when they're not serving any customers. So if you have a post office counter that runs alongside your retail counter, you can then, in the quieter times, do both types of services, and that's how it's designed to be. And that gives the branch long-term viability. You've got the potential to reduce staff costs down to doing that way. Now, in terms of the security aspect, we changed around, well, just over 5,500 of our branches now over the last 4 years. Prior to that, we had a lot of open plan working in our branches. This isn't a new way of working for us. It's tried and tested. Lots of banks and building societies also operate in an open plan environment, and the post office will do too. Okay, in the majority of the UK, it will operate like that. Now, we do risk assessments, we do different ways of working, we do training in open plan environments, and actually working in those environments actually creates a more secure, conscious way of working. Now, I can't go into the details of all of those security aspects because clearly that isn't for public information, because that is something that is shared only with the postmaster and the staff. But please be reassured that we do take this seriously and we do ensure the safety of our staff and of the customers too.
Can we have the lady in the front?
I haven't lived in the village very long, but I've still found that the post office is very efficient, used by loads of people. Now, the other one I use is Ottershaw, and that one is in a retail shop. You wait for ages, the staff are serving, so you have to wait for them to finish serving. They haven't got a dedicated cashier there. Now, I'm not sure that you say that there's times when there's nobody at the post office. I don't think that happens very often with our post office. It seems to be busy all the time, and you may only have to wait for one person or two. But if it's the Ottershaw example, they've had a ram raid, they've had stuff stolen there, there's no parking there. If that is the same as Janellas would be, you're just It's a nightmare.
Unfortunately, we do have incidents like round roads in post offices that have a fortress counter. I mean, it's not the
I'm
counter
talking about the
as
staffing
such.
as well.
It's not just the counter that I can understand where people are coming from. They have concerns about that, but you will see that in lots of different styles of format, in lots of different types of shops, by the way, not just in post offices as well. I think the latest sort of thing seems to be ATMs, isn't it? Where people just say, irrespective of whether there's a post office there.
How staff trained in the first aid? But he was paying in large sums of money. This is businesses and drawing money out. This is now done at our post office.
Sorry, I can't.
The local businesses use the post office as a banking facility to pay money in. They can be large sums of money and draw money out.
Yes.
Where will the security be in an open counter?
Okay. For any businesses that are
risky for that person.
For any businesses that want to pay large amounts of money, we will be talking. We will encourage the postmaster to be talking to them individually, which is what they do already. Okay. And when you are a business banking customer, you have arrangements with your own bank because the post office do banking on behalf of other banks. If you let me finish, the post office do banking transactions on behalf of other banks. If you're a business banking customer, you will have made arrangements to have a post office, not a post office within your community is your place where you go, and you would have a relationship with that postmaster already in terms of how you pay in, when you pay in, and what you do. And we would encourage that to be continued in the new environment.
But we have to make an appointment.
Can I just return to this question of car parking? If, when Mr. Goodman and his team of engineers examine the car parking at John Ellis and decide that it is not going to be functional safely, what are you going to do?
Well, what we do is consultate. If I can talk about the consultation process a little bit more. So at the end of the consultation process, we gather in all of the feedback that we've received, and if Councillor Goodman wants to contribute to that as well, I'm sure he will. And as part of that, the county council may contribute their view as part of the road as well. Okay, and all of you, I'm sure, will feedback too. What we then do is look at everything as a whole. Okay, and then we make the decision of whether the branch will move or not. So the consultation closes on the 22nd of March. It's usually at least 4 weeks until the decision is made, and then that is announced in the branch, and we would send a letter to local councillors and to the MP as well. And in the branch there'll be a letter for customers which summarises the feedback that we've received and our responses to that as well. So that
But Mr. Goodman won't have had an opportunity to do his study in 4 weeks.
What would you do if Janella's weren't there?
The engineers will be coming in, I'm told, on the 22nd of this month, by the 22nd of this month, to actually look at this. So it isn't going to be months before they actually...
When does the consultation end? The 22nd.
Part of the conclusion of the consultation, I'm told.
If Janella's didn't exist, what would the alternative be?
If Janella's didn't exist, or if Janella's didn't apply, that's probably more appropriate, I guess. What we do is advertise on our website and we invite people to apply for the post office. So if we don't receive any applications, then the situation remains the same, okay, for now. I don't know what would happen in a year or two. At some point, we might get to the point where the subsidy goes, and therefore the branch might find it challenging to remain viable. So the situation is not necessarily going to change just because nobody applies.
Right, can we take the gentleman in the middle, sir, back there? Yes, sir.
At the moment, you've got a ramp on the existing post office for disabled or handicapped people. If it went to Gionella, you'd have to put a ramp on the pavement, which is not a very wide pavement. And it's my understanding that that slip road or that service road belongs to the landlord of the premises, not the council. So would Gionella be paying for that ramp, or would the post office be paying for it? If it were to go there?
It's a really good question. So it's around accessibility.
Well, there's no access at the moment.
No, I agree. And at the moment there is a step into the shop.
But then if it needed a ramp, then the local council, would they step in and pay for it? And put in
I don't
traffic
think the
lights?
council will pay for the ramp.
More money.
If it's premises, so as part of, when we talk to prospective owners of post offices, we talk to them about their commitments in terms of the Equality Act and accessibility to their customers, and that's existing postmasters and any new ones that come in too. And as part of that, we would ask for them to have level access or automatic doors to make it easier for people with disabilities to be able to get into the store. Inside the store as well, we would also have widths and measurements in terms of wheelchair access inside as well. So all of that would be a pre-discussion with the prospective postmaster in this instance. And that is something that they are willing to.
Who would pay for it? Who pays for it?
The postmaster would pay for that because it's his premises. We don't pay for the work to do
So
them.
no investment by the post office at all?
The post office investment is around the post office counter and the physical post office counter. It's not about investing in somebody else's premises. We don't use taxpayers' money because in a sense that's what this money is. This investment funding is to enhance somebody's shop.
Right, can we take the
But if the
gentleman
plan-
Are there any examples where a local community has subsidised the post office to prevent it shutting down? And what's the level of that's happened?
There are some communities, many years ago we did have probably about a dozen post offices where the local council, it was would contribute money towards the post office. Those are kind of gone now because they found it unsustainable.
Excuse me, I'm a bearer of little brain, but it strikes me from what was said a little while ago that the post office is moving because it's not making money, and you can get money from us, the community, to improve the roads, improve parking, build ramp, all the other bits you're doing.
We've got it already.
When we have it already, we've got what we want.
Yeah, we have a situation in Chobham, which is probably the infant of a lot of other villages, where we have the surgery, the chemist, the post office, and the dentist, all opposite an elderly situation over the road. And why do you want to change it? Instead of keeping the gender?
No, it comes back to the future liability. So if we were to, just going back to the investment part then, if we were to invest in a post office, we would need to make it more efficient, and that's where the investment is. It's around making the counter area more efficient for the postmaster to run.
Isn't it about people?
So in the long term, it remains viable for that postmaster. Now, if you did it in the existing premises, there would be no benefit because there is no retail business.
We've asked the question on the post office. Why isn't rent regarded as retail for these purposes? So let's not go back on that. Now listen, the argument, we were due an hour of questions here. We're coming up to the hour. I'm going to take 6 more questions quickly if I can. Right, off we go then.
In terms of practice, you can only make a change for specific unseen events, so a flood or fire, due to the postmaster resigning, which they haven't, due to the sudden, or because a postmaster can't be found to replace the current ones, or, and this is the fluffy one which I assume this is under, because it makes sense to make changes to ensure we have the right services in the right places and whether it's sustainable and efficient. We currently have the right services and more than you're going to provide. They're currently in the right place, and it's already sustainable and efficient. So I don't see under your own code of practice as successful.
And I do have more of a detailed code of practice.
I've got it here.
It's actually, there's quite a lot of information in your letters on your chairs. So our processes as part of this programme have been agreed with our independent watchdog, who is Citizens Advice, who we agree our code of practice with. So all of what we're doing here with regards to Chobham Post Office, the proposals that we have, is in agreement and in accordance to the code of
I would
practice.
say you're breaching the practice.
It's not for you to say that. You can ask the question, are you breaching the code of practice? We'll put it that way.
And the answer is no, we are not.
No, but that's an official question. Laura would, let's say, answer that, but you can have that in consultation. Are you breaching?
Yeah, write that in.
So that's it.
Let's get more of an informed response.
Right, we now have 5 questions. The lady back there supporting VMA.
Doctors. The business model doesn't seem to me to really stack up, because if you think about the parking problems that are there currently, if you've got a lot of businesses in Chobham that have a lot of parcels, if you go to the old post office at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you can have somebody who's delivering 30 parcels because they have an online business where they have to put all their parcels into the post office. Now I understand from Janellas that they're going to have different systems, they don't have to put each one through individually, but you will have to have a post office van who's able to collect all of those parcels. Where on earth is she going to park to collect all of those parcels? And there isn't a post box outside either, because the only post box there is at the moment is a very small one, which is in the wall, and you have to cross a very busy road unnecessarily to get to the post office, to get to the post box. But it doesn't seem to me to be a viable business proposition if you actually can't collect post, which after all is what the post office is, to take it away to wherever it needs to go to.
So across the road there is a small post box. If you're a resident there, you probably use that anyway. If you are a customer and it did move to Janellas and you were using the post office in Janellas and you were posting something there, they would be able to accept that from you at the counter anyway. If Royal Mail, okay, it's their responsibility to make sure that their vans pick up mail. But we do have post offices in very remote areas, in areas like in shopping centres where there is no obvious car park, as an example. So Royal Mail are quite experienced in terms of where they would stop to pick up mail as well. Clearly they would need to be engaged with as part of that process if the view was that there was a
Will we still be able to collect signed for and registered mail?
Yeah. You'll be able to get all of the services that you do now, with the exception of on-demand travel insurance. That's the only one that you will be able to if you're a business customer, you've already asked that question, then you would have that conversation with the postmaster about how you would conduct that.
Do you know this says you won't be able to use payments? That's not the same service. Not on the front.
If you're paying cash, how will it credit your account? If you're paying in cash with a slip, then it will happen in exactly the same way that it does. I think there's some rumours around about the fact that some products and services won't be available, and that's not true.
Is there any truth in the rumour that you're going to put parking restrictions with regard to time on the slip road?
I've already answered that one. My answer is I will be before the 22nd of this month. A full report will be done on the suitability of moving it there and what would have to happen.
Well, my understanding is the slip road is owned by the leaseholders of the shops along there.
No, it's not.
No, it's Kent Council.
Right, everybody, our hour is up, and there are an awful lot of questions which are still requiring answering. So I'm going to ask Laura if she can tell us how the questions that we haven't got answered this evening are going to be answered in the consultation period. And how we're going about them, because I think we could be here to midnight. We are going over some of the same ground on accessibility and so on and so forth. I think we understand totally the sentiment of the meeting, which is let sleeping dogs lie. We understand the sentiment of please looking at definitions of retail and rent, and look at your bylaws to see that you're not breaking them. But there are a lot of questions. How do we get those questions to the post office so they can be looked at in a timely way and in an impartial way?
Okay, so in the letters that you've got, there's a variety of ways of contacting the post office. You can do it online, you can send us an email, and there's
put it in
an
your
online
mail?
questionnaire including if you do send us a letter, it's pre-post your comments. That's all you need to write on the front of the envelope. Pre-post your comments. That's the address you write to. And if you feed back to us your views, your comments, your questions, we will then include that in the consultation.
And will you take into account that there are 200 people here tonight who all want the 300, thank you, who all want the post office to stay where it is for good community reasons. Reason number 5 in your list.
Can I just say, the feedback in the consultation process is the most important thing. Now, we have made a note of the number of people here this evening, okay, and the fact that a meeting has been held and questions have been asked and fed into the consultation process. But please don't use that as a way not to consultate.
Will you be debriefed
Please.
when you go back to work?
Will I be debriefed?
Will you be debriefed? Will somebody ask you how you got on? Somebody who matters. Will you be asked by somebody who matters? How did you get on in that meeting?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right, I'm still going to pass over the information which has been given to us.
There's a petition of 1,230 signatures, which, given that the village have an awful lot more houses than that, is indicative of the strength of feeling and the negative impact that moving this post office will have on this entire community.
As it happens, I am now about to go and see Michael Gove. I will tell him of what the sentiment is. He is not.
I heard he was out.
I will tell him this evening what the sentiment of this meeting is. Being a typical politician even, he will await formal consultation. But he is your member of parliament. He would love to have been here this evening to hear it. So he's going to hear it from me on your behalf. Please also talk to everybody here who might be a councillor. We've seen a few of them. There's also very good ex-councillors here. There's an ex-chairman of the county council here. And these people can actually make your voice be heard even louder than it is. Thank you very much.